It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us on Facebook today, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing protection against cyber attacks in Trinidad and Tobago. Our guest today, Sherwin Forte. He is the manager of corporate security at Republic Bank Limited. He's also a former fraud squad detective. So I don't know how that coincides with CSI, but we'll find out from him later. We're also joined by Donna-Lisa Dinnoo. She is the acting manager of IT security at Republic Bank, and she has over 18 years of experience combining IT operations and cybersecurity. So let's welcome our guest today. We have a short time and so much things to cover. How are we today, guys?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Pauline. Thanks for having us.
All right. What about you, Donna? You good?
Yes.
You and seeing you clearly. All right. So, as it's Cybersecurity Month, a lot of us hear that and think it's this technical term that doesn't apply to us. It's like so far removed from who we are right now. But I want to start really simple because, as I mentioned earlier, CSI, it's such a popular show, so people know about crime. But what about cybercrime? What is cybercrime? Who wants to take a stab at it first?
All right, so, Pauline, thanks. I'll take a first go at it, and perhaps Donna-Lisa can add. Um, Pauline, what I really want to do, first off, is confirm something that we all already know. What that something is that technology has revolutionized our lives. We are doing a lot more today in terms of our personal finances, entertainment. I mean, whatever we do, we are doing it online. We're using the internet. We are using computer systems. We're using IT tools. However, interestingly enough, or ironically, I should say, cyber criminals are also using the same tools. They have also embraced technology, and they are also using that same technology, such as generative AI. They're using generative AI. They're using encryption tools. They are using spoofing email, etc. All of that sort of stuff, and they're using it to commit crimes. Now, interestingly, these are not new crimes. So, in other words, criminals don't really need a computer to commit fraud, to commit cyber terrorism, or to commit any other type of crime for that matter. But having the computer, having the IT tools that are now widely inexpensive and available to them makes their lives a whole lot easier, and it makes it better for them to commit some of the crimes that they're now committing. As I said, it's not modern crimes, it's just crimes that are now being done via the use of computers and computer tools, IT tools, etc. That really is essence is what cybercrime is all about.
Thank you so much for that, Sherwin. Lisa, you want to add?
No, that is exactly it. You know, cybercrime is really just the crimes committed using a computer.
So I think that's in its simplistic form, and a lot of us may think, well, I'm not on the computer that much, so this conversation doesn't apply to me. What would you say to that person?
And definitely not, Pauline, because while we talk about computers, some persons may think it's the actual computer, but people use the internet, people use their phones. People have phones in their homes where they can be reached, persons can call them as well. So cybercrime expands all of those means of communication where people can be reached by any bad actor. So it doesn't mean that you have to be online or on the computer alone. You can be using your phones because it can reach you. And we'll explain that when we talk about some of the present day scams that we are seeing.
Yeah, it's actually sometimes, well, I wouldn't even say, I was going to say maybe it's an age thing where some folks, because the patience I have to show, someone of an elder age, not, you don't have to type in HTTPS. It's a whole different conversation. The fact that you need to have that S at the end of that HTTP. So when it comes to this conversation, let's talk about social engineering, because there is a form of integration of offline and online, right? So there's this conversation around being part of a community and wanting to be loved, because I recently saw some people got skimmed out of money because they said they were Brad Pitt and they needed some money. And once they send that money, they'll have a relationship with them. So let's talk a little bit about social engineering, because no one wants to be a victim, but it's so easy to be caught up in a conversation that you may want to have, but it's not real. So can you expand on that?
Yeah, thanks, Pauline. I'll also talk about social engineering, and then perhaps Donna-Lisa can chime in there. Social engineering in its rawest form is basically manipulation. It is a psychological manipulation of an individual, getting them to reveal their confidential information, or as we call it, your personal identifiable information, PII. Fraudsters or bad actors generally use this type of manipulative tactics, coercion, fear, into getting their victims to reveal that information. We'll talk about some of these scams. I mean, you mentioned the romance scam. It really is about building up a relationship with people, which is really the backbone of fraud. It really is the backbone of these types of crimes that we're speaking about. Deception. Someone uses this deception, someone uses this type of manipulation to get someone to do something that they generally won't do, or to reveal information that they generally won't reveal. Now, there's a sad reality behind all of this, because while we talk about the persons who socially engineer you online, sometimes an often unknown fact is that some of these people are themselves victims of modern day slavery. Some of them are forced to do what they're actually doing, and they're actually taught how to manipulate people. As a matter of fact, there is information online that suggests that there are manuals that prepare these people in terms of their psychological manipulation of people, which instructs them to be friendly, be funny, make the people laugh, and make them fall in love so deeply that they forget everything else. And that is the reality of what is happening with social engineering. Perhaps Donna can chime in.
Yeah, and with social engineering, I think the bad actors doing it, they are very well practiced, very well rehearsed. As Sherwin said, they are well trained in knowing how to manipulate you, and they know exactly which strings to pull, which is why it's so effective in doing cybercrime.
Wow, that's eye-opening, because to think that the person's also doing it is in a desperate position, that's a whole, puts another spin on this conversation. So what can people do? Because a lot of times, we're fearful of what people will think of us and the position that we'll be in if we share. What do you think someone should do firstly, if they are watching this and figure out, wait a minute, maybe I'm in this situation? What should they do next?
Pauline, the first thing is to reach out to someone that they first of all trust. We have seen several situations, and I'll share a story here with you if you don't mind. We have had situations where persons have come to financial institutions to make deposits to accounts after they were duped, after they were told that the person into whose account they're making this deposit is their husband or wife or spouse, or in some romantic relationship. And because our staff members are aware, some of them have actually turned these people away. But these people are adamant that they want to make this deposit to this account because they have fallen in love so deeply, they have fallen for the rules so deeply that they intend, and they are intent on making this financial deposit to an account. What we would like people to do is to not victim shame. And ironically, today is World Mental Health Day. So it's some good advice as well, because people are under some emotional and mental pressures when they are duped by these types of scams. What we don't want people doing is victim shaming people, making people embarrassed to talk about it. People have actually committed suicide based on the amount of money that they have lost, because cybercrime is big business. If it wasn't big business, then it wouldn't be as organized as it really is at present. But it is so well organized, so well orchestrated, and the lure of making money is what is driving these cyber criminals to do the things that they do, even to lonely, vulnerable people.
Wow, that is a lot of, well, that's just really sad, because I think one of the first things we have to do is have the ability to talk about things, because no one should be going through this alone. And victim blaming is not something that will lead anywhere because we have to then figure out, what do we do next? Because that's really what we're trying to really investigate in this conversation. What do we do next when this situation happens? Because at the end of the day, you could share this, especially with you guys being in the space that you're in as long as you have. Is it a case of this is a drastic change, or is it that they're just new tools and this behavior was always there?
The short answer to that, Pauline, is that this behavior was always there. As I said earlier on, these are not new crimes. What has happened is that the fraudsters now have new technology. Let's consider, prior to 2019, these crimes existed. So pre-COVID, these crimes did exist. However, when we saw COVID-19 come in, a lot of people were literally forced to do their banking online. They were ushered into that digital space. Let's take, for example, some of the supermarkets in Trinidad. They had what we now know as curbside pickup. People were forced to do their shopping online. You couldn't go to the supermarkets anymore. So the fraudsters have used this anonymity, this internet, this fact that persons are now drifting towards digital transactions to take advantage of persons who, one, may not be fully aware of the technology, and because they are anonymous themselves, they are now duping people into doing things that they would not traditionally do. So yes, having someone to talk to, a trusted person to talk to, is important. Reaching out to the TTPS in terms of their various streams of service, for example, the Financial Investigative Bureau, the Financial Investigative Unit, the Fraud Squad, and even the regular police station, the cybercrime units. Those are people that you can talk to if you have been impacted by this to seek some sort of resolution.
Okay, and I want to bring it in the context of being in Trinidad and Tobago, because a lot of times we see these things online and we think, that's not happening here, that doesn't apply to us. With your background in this space, in financial space, can you give some insight on maybe one of the most common things you see, without obviously giving any information, but what's one of the most common things you see in Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, I'll give you two. One is that romance fraud scam that happens more often than not. And what has been on the rise recently is investment scams, where persons meet people online, they develop relationships quite similar to the romance fraud type scam, and then they are invited to make investments in cryptocurrency. And persons have fallen prey to that, persons have fallen victim to that, and deposited money in various financial institutions with the promise of high investment returns. And when it doesn't happen, then of course they realize that it all was a scam.
Wow, that's so unfortunate, but I think this is important for us to hear, because once that conversation is not visible, we're not going to have the ability to have these difficult conversations. So I think it's so important for us to learn about what's happening here now. All right, so we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have a more in-depth conversation about what phishing is, and it doesn't involve an animal. So we'll be right back. Back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from LinkedIn, thanks again. Don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing protection against cyber attacks in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're joined by two professionals who've been in the space for a number of years, and they're both from Republic Bank Limited, Sherwin and Donna-Lisa. So let's bring them back in because this conversation is super important and it's relevant to every single one of us today. No matter if you think you don't spend that much time on the computer, you do have a phone, and this is applicable to you. So just before the break, we were having a discussion around social engineering, and what we want to shift the conversation to now is phishing attacks. So we've had this discussion a few times, but I don't think we need to. I think we need to continue having this conversation. So first and foremost, for those who don't know, can you explain what phishing is?
I'll leave this one to Donna-Lisa.
Yeah, so phishing is where the bad actors send out emails and all kinds of different correspondence to reach you, to entice you into performing some kind of action. And there are several different types of phishing. Well, there's phishing, and then there are several variations of it. So phishing, you might be familiar with in terms of phishing emails. I'm sure everyone has already seen phishing emails, received them in their inbox, and they might have looked suspicious to you. So that is good. Right now, there are other types of phishing that is happening. There's smishing, which is SMS, phishing via SMS messages. And this is again where they send you messages to try and get you to do something. I think a famous recent one in Trinidad was the TT Post, the TT Post messages where it was said, you have a package and click here to go ahead and pay. And there were quite a number of people who were caught by that because perhaps, they were expecting something and, they didn't really think about it or scrutinize it. Then there's also phishing, which is phishing via voice. So this is one that Sherwin would have mentioned in terms of it can be any device or channel to contact someone. So in this one, they would make a phone call and again, try to entice you to do something, share sensitive information, credit card information, and so on. And then there is also phishing, which is where QR codes are now being used to, when you scan the QR code, it takes you to a website, it's taking you to a malicious website. So that is the last new one, phishing. And then if I could also mention whaling, which is where they go after the big fish. So remember, fishing is, yes, they think about normal fishes, but whaling is where you go after the big fish. So executive, sea level, and so on, where there is more gains to be made. And also there is spear phishing, which is where you are targeted. So like if you were to think about it, you aim and you target someone. And in those instances, the emails are much more enticing.
Wow, that's a lot to learn. And guys, if you missed any of that, don't worry. This recording will be live and available to you to rewind and watch again. And to the marine community out there, we're not attacking you. These are just terminologies that we're learning because this is new for me as well. So I want to talk back a little bit to a huge one for me. I'm going to make this about me for a second. The email side of things, a lot of times, because I've been in this space for 14 years, I've worked online remotely, and I think I am, adaptable and somewhat intelligent online, but there are moments when I'm multitasking. So I'd get this email and I would just open it and click. And there was one time where it actually it looked like it came from my email. So what are some of the ways that folks can try to avoid the situation? Because they might be thinking, all right, well, I'm just going to open this because it's familiar.
Yeah, so I mean, you really raised a good point there about, perhaps multitasking, being distracted, too many things happening at the same time. And I think that is something that could happen to all of us. And when these phishing attacks come, it doesn't come with advance notice. So really and truly, it just slips right into our daytime. And as you said, we might be busy. And as such, you don't get to scrutinize the email as much as you would normally. So maybe on a on a regular basis, you could really detect all of these types of phishing attacks. But when you're multitasking, there is the increased probability that that you can click on something that you wouldn't normally click on. So it is to, to remain vigilant and kind of like pause when you see something. And I believe that perhaps, your instincts should also kick in terms of, something telling you, okay, wait, maybe, so that it allows you that extra little second that could really change what could really happen.
And Pauline, if I may add to what Donna-Lisa is saying, yes, you might be busy. Yes, you may be distracted, but I'll just give a general rule of thumb, which I could perhaps expand on a little bit later. If any email or SMS message comes to you advising that you've won a prize, that someone is suddenly in love with you, talking about crypto investments, or anything of that nature, even the packages. I mean, if you're not expecting a package, even worse, if you're not expecting a package, then you shouldn't be clicking on the link. If you are expecting a package, then perhaps you should call the source, not the telephone number that you have been sending message in, but call the direct source, call TT Post and confirm. So those are some of the things that we can do. Yes, we're all busy, but if we see messages of this nature coming to us, advising us that you have won some prize, or that perhaps your account has been compromised and you should do this immediately, avoid that urgency, avoid that desire to panic, and act urgently on these messages. If you have to act urgently on the messages, if you have to make a response to it, then call the authorized financial institution that you bank with. Don't call the number that you see appearing on your phone or via an email.
No, I want to step back a bit and talk about how, because I have a US phone, and it is completely insane how many what is it, smishing emails that smishing messages I get. So I get direct messages saying I've gotten a package from DHL, I've gotten this job offer, wanting, and it's reputable companies with huge names, and I've been desensitized to it now. Whereas, do you see that basically evolving in Trinidad? Do you see an increase happening? And just maybe looking into a future ball, and saying, okay, this may happen, and maybe advise on what we can do to not just help ourselves, but the future, because kids are online now.
Right. Donna-Lisa, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I think there is the potential for these types of phishing attacks and smishing attacks to increase in Trinidad. And really and truly, the biggest thing we could do to combat it is awareness, right? Yourself up to date with latest news. And I would also say sharing it, because just like how we would normally share information about maybe different events in Trinidad, like a bad accident on the highway, flooding, certain types of crime taking place in certain places, I think this should also fall into the same category, where we are able to alert, those that we know, so that they will also not fall victim to it. And then I would say furthermore, with like say phishing emails, or if you were to find a fake phishing website, also please report it. So the phishing emails, if there is one that comes, Sherwin would have mentioned, like you get an email saying there was a problem with your account, or your account will be closed soon, and it's prompting you to take action right away. Report, and you really do determine, okay, well, this seems like it's a scam. Do report it to your bank, and then from there is action that we can take to kind of like prevent others from also falling victim to it. Because what the phishing email would lead to is a website where you would put in information, and we can do the necessary reporting to have those websites shut down.
Yeah, and Pauline, just to add to what Donna is saying there, in the future landscape, yes, we have and we are going through a digital transformation. So the short answer to your question is yes, we are going to see more like this. We are going to see more phishing emails. We are going to see more smishing. We are going to get more activity of phishing. As a matter of fact, Deloitte has indicated that 91% of cyber attacks start with a phishing email. And if text messages via smishing is going to help the fraudsters as well, then that is what they're going to do. So we are going to see much more attacks in cyberspace.
Wow. You know, it could be one of those things where we feel overwhelmed and feel like, you know, there's always this doom and gloom in Trinidad. And I would like for you guys to maybe share some advice because, you know, there's this idea of, okay, well, I'm just going to cut off everything online and I'm never going to go back online. Like, what advice would you give to that person? Because, I mean, the internet's not going anywhere. So how do we try to combat this and reduce the risk of it happening to us?
And Pauline, from an individual perspective, the first thing that is important is for us to understand how these scams work. So Donna-Lisa would have said just now, it's about vigilance, it's about understanding, it's about raising our level of awareness, it's about educating customers, it's about educating people. The internet is there, it's not going to go away, as you said. We are in the age of digital transformation where all of our financial transactions, all of our businesses, everything that we do is basically online. We educate ourselves online, there's distance learning. What we need to be aware of is that there are bad actors out there. We have heard about recent cyber attacks. LinkedIn was hacked, Uber was hacked, Yahoo was hacked, and many different places across the world. So fraudsters outside there do have a lot of our personal information already. We go online on a daily basis, and sometimes some of the images that we post, some of the things that we put up, we share our personal information as well. So the fraudsters have that information. As a matter of fact, in the cyber world, that information is known as the fulls, right? F-U-L-L-Z, that's what they call it. And they sell that information online, both on the dark web and on the open internet as well, for basically upwards of what, 10, 20, 30 US dollars. You can purchase people's information and even much less than that in some instances. So it really is about our awareness, what we put online, what we do online. I mean, nothing is wrong with using the internet. Nothing is wrong with going online to do our transactions, but it's about practicing proper cyber hygiene, understanding how we secure our passwords and how we secure all of the information that we use. Perhaps Donna-Lisa wants to add something further to that.
Yeah, so in terms of keeping ourselves safe online, you would also want to have, like, say, antivirus and so on your phone. Sometimes if you happen to click a link, right, there are some virus protection systems that do have things built in where they might warn you that this link is suspicious or it is malicious, and it would actually bring up that warning. So I think that is one avenue that we could use for our personal devices. Make sure that they have the antivirus and that they're also up to date. And also another key thing, because one of the consequences of falling for the phishing or these types of cyber attacks is that sometimes your credentials, you give up your credentials thinking that you are logging into the legitimate source. However, sometimes with the fake phishing websites, you might it will gather your credentials and you would be none the wiser. But if you have multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, as some people may know it, even if your credentials are stolen, they would not be able to log in without having that additional layer of protection. And by multi-factor, I mean, like, you know, sometimes you would get like a code coming to your phone, right, or an SMS and stuff, and you have to provide that next level of authentication to be able to log into your account. So without the actual device in their hands, they will not be able to log in.
I love that suggestion, Donna-Lisa, because a lot of people, I mean, I see the numbers. We have way more people on Facebook than we should have in Trinidad. We have a very high internet penetration. But a lot of people don't have the two-factor authentication, which is so important on your profile because, you know, I've seen a lot of messages saying I've been hacked, or even businesses who've lost their assets because they have built their Facebook page to have a certain amount of followers. And it's really a step of going into your profile and just clicking this, okay, you need to have that next step in order to access it. And it should be something, I mean, we all have our phones on us, so it's something that we should all look into. So we are going to go on a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have this conversation around AI because everybody loves to use that word, but a lot of folks don't even realize that we've been using it for quite some time. So we'll be right back. It is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and you have joined us on Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. And financial literacy and education does include the internet. So here we are, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're joining us from YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today we're discussing protection against cyber attacks in Trinidad and Tobago. And we don't have much time, but that's okay. If you miss any of this discussion, this live show will be available on our social media platforms so you can replay. We're joined today by Sherwin Forte. He is manager of corporate security at Republic Bank, as well as Donna-Lisa Dinnoo. She's the acting manager of IT security at Republic Bank Limited. So we're going to bring them in again, and we're going to have this AI conversation. So, Trinidadians like to tell a story. There was a very popular video. It was a very short clip of birds on LinkedIn, and it was shared thousands of times. It was commented. So it went over 100 and something thousand likes. And it was mind-blowing to me because it was obviously AI. The colors weren't, it would never exist in nature. But the comments were like, oh my gosh, nature is so amazing. Nature's it's something that we should all be grateful for. And I was like, why are you not seeing that? This is not real. So in the context of this discussion, when it comes to AI, how is it being used to convince people to give up information that's not necessarily something they should be sharing online? Where does it fit in?
Donna?
Yes. So we would have talked about spear phishing before. So AI stands for artificial intelligence. And really and truly, what the general public might understand about AI is that it has the ability to just increase your capabilities in terms of what you are able to do. So we are not the only ones who know that. The fraudsters also know that, and they have been also working with AI. So in terms of spear phishing, which is where they would target you for attack, the emails are coming much more, the emails or different types of messages, they're coming much more personalized, and they're also a lot more convincing. So really and truly, it does increase the likelihood of you actually clicking on a message or going through with it. It's a lot more believable. As well as, I would say in the past, one of the things we used to tell people about those phishing emails is that, oh, well, they're gonna, once you see the bad grammar or the bad spelling, that's surely a phishing email. That's really not a business email. Nobody who's really professional, would get it so wrong. And really and truly now with AI, the messages are very well written, very polished, and even certain graphics and so on. So what AI is doing is allowing people to be able to have a much more attractive bait set for you. And the other thing that AI also does is that it lowers the barrier for entry for fraudsters, because before this used to be a craft or a skill that you would have to really develop and work at. And now with AI puts a lot of tools and a lot of power in your hands to just augment everything you are doing, and it does it at scale. So those are some of the things that we've been seeing with AI.
Yeah, so definitely, Pauline, we are seeing that AI is increasingly being used for malicious purposes. As Donna would have indicated, it is artificial intelligence. It is what the computer can do, or tasks that human beings would traditionally do. The computers can actually now do that. I mean, it is helpful, it is powerful for us in the business world, but it is also a powerful tool in the hands of fraudsters. AI today can create synthetic text, synthetic audio, synthetic video, as Donna-Lisa was saying, which all helps to enhance their phishing attacks.
Wow,
and Sherwin, if I could just add to that as well, in terms of making the emails more personalized, there are now data aggregating tools that are AI driven that now could gather a lot of data on all of us, because our data is out there on the internet, and that is how they're able to produce the more targeted and personalized messages to incentivize you to fall for the bait.
Yes, because a lot of us don't think, that post on Facebook is going anywhere. We don't think that that's actually going to be used to come back against us and head into our email address. Like, wait a minute, how do you know that my dog name is John? So it's definitely something that we need to be mindful of. I'm just going to head into the comments because, sorry guys, that I may have missed some of your comments. So Sachin, what about the emerging technologies like cryptocurrency and generative AI? Do you believe that this may accelerate cybercrime in our region?
Yeah, so in terms of the cryptocurrencies, I mean, Sherwin would have indicated that one of the two biggest ones that we've been seeing in Trinidad is the investment scams, one of them being cryptocurrency investments. So with that, people are enticed that to allow somebody to manage their investments. And I know that is something that will probably be around for some time to come, as well as we're also aware of certain new applications that are being created, and people are being enticed to download, and really and truly, it's going to be something that will eventually lead to you not having control of your money, or allowing your money to be stolen from you.
Yeah, and Pauline, I think we answered the second part of Sachin's question when we said that AI is increasingly being used for malicious purposes. We know what it can do, that artificial intelligence. It can generate, as I said, synthetic text, synthetic audio, synthetic video. So with that technology available to bad actors, we can rest assured that AI will be used to help these fraudsters enhance their cyber attacks.
I actually would like to add, as someone in the social media space, I see a lot of Instagram profiles just flaunting a lot of really nice, expensive cars and, traveling and so forth. And I always tell people a big question mark when that happens, because people who are truly wealthy don't just, put it out there. So just be mindful. If something is too good to be true, it probably is, guys, because we got to work hard to get that money. So I just want to shout out to Kyle, Julian on LinkedIn. It's a conversation that we mentioned earlier. The TTP posts, SMS text messages that recently circulated seem so personal and authentic, which we mentioned earlier before. Luckily, I reached out to TTP Post to get more information before clicking anything. So that's a great example of a call to action, the incident happening, and what to do next. So thanks a lot for that, Kyle. All right, so we have this conversation around AI, and I feel like it'll be remiss if we don't put this in the context of businesses, because we're talking a lot about what we should do as individuals, but what about businesses? Because, you could be a one-man show, have one person doing everything, or you could have a huge employee, 2,000, 3,000 people. How does this conversation fit into this this person who has a CEO and who have to manage all these people? What is the first thing they have to do to reduce the risk of being attacked in the cyberspace?
Sorry, can I ask you to repeat the question, because it was breaking up for me?
No In terms of the commercial side of things, you may have a small business, so you may have employee staff of 3,000. What's the first step you need to take to reduce the risk of being attacked in the cyberspace?
Well, I think because we are aware that there are many attacks that are successful simply because of human error, I think focusing first on our human resources is something that is a great place to start. So having that education and that cybersecurity awareness. I know some companies would engage in cybersecurity awareness training, as something that's mandatory, right? And also phishing tests and so on. Those are great ways to ensure that in terms of the humans, that we are a little more able to detect and stop any kinds of attacks that may occur through these channels.
And Pauline, just to add to what Donna-Lisa is saying, traditionally we see or it has been said in the cybersecurity world that human beings are the weakest link. And it probably is true because 80% of cyber attacks are generally started through some human error, some action or some inaction. But what we need to do now is start seeing our employees as our greatest strength. Start to educate them, start to let them know about this activity in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of phishing scams, in terms of these various types of cyber scams, and make them our watchguards.
I have a friend, she works for an international global company based out of France, and they have, locations in about 50 places in the world. And one of the exercises that they do is they send these, phishing emails. And one of them, I think it's so cleverly done, has to do with a new job. So you get a chance to increase, it specifically says, okay, you're in this job. How about you apply for this new job from another company altogether? And a lot of people failed because they clicked on it. And, in this space as a small business or medium business owner, you may think, oh gosh, this is another thing I need to do. Why is it important to include a cybersecurity professional in this space?
Could you repeat the last part again? Why is it important to include a
cybersecurity professional to assist you with this space, being able to train your employees?
Sorry, Sherwin, I'm not able to hear that. I'm not sure if you could repeat it for me.
Okay, she's asking about the importance of using a cybersecurity professional in this business space, helping organizations to keep safe.
Oh yeah, certainly. So yeah, there are many organizations who, smaller organizations and so on that don't have the resources to say maintain somebody who is focused on cybersecurity. So I think certainly, getting a professional to help them just lay out a few things, starting with policy and then looking at what are the technical controls inside the organization and certain defenses that should be put in place and just improvements in other areas. I think that should certainly be done.
No, that's a perfect response. I mean, it should start with proper policy, proper technical controls, and that is where the cybersecurity professionals come into being, because they are the ones that are charged with the responsibility of protecting the organization from these cyber attacks. So it is important to have someone with that type of knowledge and someone with the knowledge to create, as you mentioned just now, those simulated phishing attacks, so that everyone can become better educated and better aware of how to avoid falling victim or prey to these types of attacks.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Hello. Go ahead.
Okay. I would also like to say that in terms of phishing training, So the cybersecurity awareness training and how to detect a phishing attack, I did come across a website that I thought was helpful. And no, I'm not putting in a plug for any particular company, but I saw this one and I thought it would be useful to the public. So this one is called phishingbox.com, and it's spelled phishing with the PH. So phishingbox.com/phishing-test. And when you go there, there's both a video that gives you some training on how to detect the phishing attack, as well as a little test that you could run through. So they're going to give you some sample emails to look at, and and you have to say whether you consider it legitimate or malicious, and it will give you the results. So you would have an idea of how you perform. So even if your company is not able to necessarily, get to a phishing test, then there are other ways that you can get to this kind of resource that's going to help you.
Thank you so much for that, Donna-Lisa. And for those who are watching this, we will put it in the comments, as well as you can sign up for future live shows, and we tend to send these links out with the conversations that we're having. So you can get it directly into your inbox. Don't worry, it comes from a BATT.org.pt URL, so you know it's coming from us. All right, so we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have this deepfake conversation, because it's so unreal what is real and what isn't. So we'll be right back. Back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing protection against cyber attacks in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're joined today by two professionals who've been in the industry for a number of years, Sherwin and Donna-Lisa, and they're both from Recovery Bank Limited. So let's get to it, because we don't have much time. If you missed any of the discussion we had earlier, not to worry. This is available across social media platforms, and you can rewatch it on the replay. So we spoke about cybercrime, we spoke about social engineering, we spoke about artificial intelligence, AI. But let's talk about, in this AI realm, deepfake, because there was recently a conversation that Jennifer Anderson had, which is Rachel from Friends, on a round table with a very reputable magazine. And she said a few things. And then for some reason, someone decided to use AI and revamped her entire conversation so it looked real. And it's very interesting, because we're in a world where we so easily click that share button. It's very scary. So for those who don't know, let's start with a really simple conversation. What are deepfakes?
Perhaps I could let Donna-Lisa lead off with this, and then I'll chime in.
Yeah. So deepfake, we could talk about where the word originates. It's actually a blend of deep learning and fake. So the deep learning meaning the artificial intelligence, and and doing something that is fake. So this could be images, video, or audio that are edited or generated using these artificial intelligence tools, and it may depict either somebody who is real or non-existent.
Yeah. So Pauline, what I'll add is that I'll go back a little bit to talk about something referred to as shallow fakes, right? We are all aware that, people still use this technique, that people can take your image that you have online and edit it or splice it into someone else's photo. And a lot of people have been embarrassed emotionally when people have done that, taken images online or offline and merged them with somebody else's photo and sent it out in public to embarrass people. That was referred to as shallow fake, because it depended on someone's skill sets to be able to use that image to generate another image or to merge two images. Deep fake is when artificial intelligence does this for us. And we have seen countless examples of that, where people are able to generate images that actually mimics human beings. Deepfake also involves, as Donna-Lisa would have indicated, text, synthetic audio, and synthetic video. So persons have been able to use artificial intelligence to create voices through voice cloning that sound absolutely like the original person, to create video that looks absolutely like the original person. So it is a concern for us in this realm, deepfake, and we have to learn to identify and to be able to manage our security around deepfakes.
I want to come off the script for a bit and just sort of have a discussion around the idea of what my information and my ownership of the information. Because in this world, especially as a small business owner, you want to get something out there to reach your customers as quickly as possible. So you have all these AI supported tools, which is great. But then when that information is in these particular AI websites, then that is no longer yours. Meaning, let's say, for instance, you have a business and you have this idea and you want to create a business plan. So you put all that information in this particular tool. Is it that information is no longer mine and that idea is no longer mine? Like, what do we have to think about when we are using these tools for our businesses?
I'll let Donna-Lisa lead off with this in terms of using
Sherwin,
AI
could you
tools.
repeat the question?
She's talking about.
Could you just repeat the question?
Yeah, she's talking about AI tools. So we use AI tools. We put a lot of information in it. Is that information, or does that information remain ours, or because it goes into cyberspace, should we be concerned about that?
In terms of ownership of the generated content, was that the question?
Yes.
Well, I don't think so. I think that is one of the current concerns about AI, and I don't think they've necessarily settled, industry-wise on really and truly who owns the content. I know there are certain things that you can and cannot claim copyright for if it was created with AI, but I don't think there have been any laws passed, at least not to my knowledge, on maybe where the ownership of that would lie.
And that's thing for all of us to think about when we're using these platforms and trying to figure out, what exactly down the line someone else will be using that, and that will show up, and you have no right to say and claim it's yours, right? So it's definitely something to ponder. So in the conversation around AI, how can we detect these things? Because if you're saying to me, as you mentioned earlier, the AI is getting smarter, so it's pulling and it's aggregating information online. And someone goes, okay, well, I got this post, or I got this email, I got this text message, because we learned about the phishing and the smishing. What is the number one step someone should do to detect and prevent these AI-generated scams? Just, give us one quick insight, each person. We're going to start with Donna-Lisa. Did you hear? Or you want to start with Sherwin?
Okay. Yeah, I think I was able to hear that. So in terms of detecting these AI scams, yes?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the first one would be, say if it's, so there have been examples, right? So say where a deepfake was done using voices. I think some of you may or may not have heard about a case where there was a company in Hong Kong in which 25 million US was wired out. And this is because an employee in the finance department received a call from his CFO, or so he thought, right? And he was even pulled into a meeting, and it was actually like a Teams meeting, and he was able to see the CFO and also other members of the company there. And so he was convinced that, the payment needed to be made. So as such, the money was wired out. And that is actually, one of the notable attacks that we've had with AI. So one of the things that we've known to do is to to validate. So it still goes back to the same principles, like with receiving a phishing email or a smishing text, right? It would be to validate the source of the information, validate the request, especially sometimes where things are unsolicited, as well as if there is some kind of urgency to do it now or some type of threat being placed on you. I think those are certainly telltale signs, and you should find a different way to validate it. And in fact, there are some good stories that come out of this. Also recently, this would have been with the company Ferrari. There was an employee, and he received a call from his boss, and he was very sure that the voice was his boss. But based on what the request was, again, it was to make some sort of payment. But there was something that, he said, this is not sounding, let me just validate this. So what he did was he asked the person, he said, okay, let me just ask you just one question. What was the name of the book that you referred to me yesterday? And then when he asked that question, the caller immediately hung up because they realized that, that the other person was onto them. So I think finding a way to either validate or now sort of find a way to kind of like put the scammer on trial themselves is are techniques that you can use. And it may be asking them a question that that they are the only person who would know the answer to that question, or it may even be a random question that they may not be able to answer. It will cause them to hesitate and pause, and I think that is enough to scare them off and make the particular attack unsuccessful.
Yeah, so Pauline, that is in fact a very good way to help us in this effort against deepfakes, because I mean it is understandably a real challenge, because something looks absolutely real in front of you. The voice that you're hearing is absolutely real in front of you. There is some software that is available called ChatGPT-0 that you can use to determine if the text was AI generated or if it was human generated. So it's something that we can use. It is available online. And for video, I do what we call the lip sync test. Is it a natural lip sync? When you look at what the person is saying, is it that the person is actually saying these words, or is it a voiceover? And we could pick that up. We could also look for things like what I call the mouth, teeth, and tongue test. Look at the mouth, look at the teeth, look at the tongue. Does it look real? Right? And one other thing is the person breathing, or is this an artificial image and there is no breathing? So look at the throat, and is this person really breathing while they're speaking? So they're just a couple more tips to add.
Wow, when Donna-Lisa was telling that story, my mouth dropped because it was giving Star Trek. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it's for us to, be a bit more cautious with this, and just additional steps, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, the internet's not going anywhere. And this is why we have these shows, so we can have these discussions. So thank you so much for everybody for joining us today. I see that on the comments, we have some conversations happening. So Randy, I guess, is chiming in on the discussion we had on ownership of the discussion of your content, and says ChatGPT explicitly says do not put sensitive information into the query for this reason. So if you had missed that question we had about who owns the content when we use the AI tools. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Want to shout out to Sherwin and Donna-Lisa for joining us in this conversation around protection against cyber attacks in Trinidad and Tobago. If you missed the discussion, that's okay. It's available on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so you can check it on the replay. Don't forget to sign up to be notified about our next live show in the link in the comments. And as always, I'll see you next time. So thanks again, everybody. Bye.
Bye.